Besties! Get ready for this week's spill.
Grab your favorite drink and come hang out with us.
You guys, we have bubble tea again.
Woo!
I got a caramel milk tea with just regular boba pearls.
And I have a strawberry green tea with strawberry pearls. First sip.
Oh, mine's good. It kind of tastes like coffee.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. My pearls aren't cooked, and I almost died.
What do you mean?
Like, I almost choked on it. Dead ass.
Oh. Yeah, mine tastes like an iced coffee.
I'm so jealous. I should have got that one. I was looking at the caramel one, too. It looked so good.
Yeah, next time.
Tits. Well, I'll just be very careful.
Yeah.
If we have to pause for me to die, we'll finish it out.
Oop. Okay, so for this week's episode, it's gonna be another hard one. We are gonna be talking about mine and Laura's depression, anxiety, and mental health issues that we deal with every day and how we cope with them on a day-to-day basis.
I do think we should put a trigger warning in this one. So, trigger warning, we will be talking about mental health and self-harm and suicide and eating disorders. So, if any of those subjects are going to be hard for you to listen to, please feel free to skip this one and join us next week. But if you can handle it, then let's get started.
So I am going to start off. Growing up, I guess I didn't really talk about depression or anxiety at all with anybody. But I always knew I had something, especially growing up being overweight for most of my life. That always kind of bothered me and got me upset because you always compare yourself to everybody else, which led to definitely an eating disorder for me big time. That was my way of coping. So snacking and nighttime eating in my room away from people, which even to this day I hate eating in front of people.
I'm like that too.
Yeah. And then I guess always trying to put a happy face on. I don't think I ever showed emotion with that stuff ever growing up. I didn't.
That's so sad.
I was always the happy, funny, goofy kid.
Well, you're still the happy, funny, goofy kid.
But it's I don't want to say it's a mask, but it kind of is, because this is what I'm showing on the outside, and then on the inside, you're thinking completely different.
It definitely is a mask, but it's easy to put it on when you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Okay, well, since we're starting little, I also don't really have that much to say from the beginning, but I was always very anxious as a kid, and I kind of always just figured oh, you're just shy, or that's just kind of who you are. But I learned much later on that I've probably had anxiety mostly, if not my whole life. And the earliest I can remember struggling with anything really was in grade 7 when I met one of my best friends, and she was also struggling with having a harder childhood and a harder home life, which was relatable for me. Obviously, we've gone into it a little bit in daddy issues, but wasn't a great home life. So she also struggled with that, and that was kind of around the time I started self-harming for the first time. Was about grade 7, grade 8, and that was also around the time that I started noticing girls around me were really skinny, and I got bugged a little bit about my weight. So I didn't have an eating disorder that young, but I definitely was really restrictive with what I'd eat. I would throw out half my lunch at school and eat half of it, which I don't know, I didn't need to, honestly. I look back now, I was fairly small, but for whatever reason I just didn't see myself that way. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another thing too when you brought up anxiety. So I talked about this like in our last episode a little bit too, even like ordering food, I would never do it. And I think that like also stemmed from like my childhood.
Yeah.
You never like think about it.
Yeah. Well, and I think now that we're older, it makes sense that, like, I believe a lot of mental illnesses and stuff like that is directly from your childhood and how you were raised and how you were brought up.
Yeah.
And like what you've experienced when you were like little. So definitely would explain that.
I guess like not really paying attention to it and just like assuming that that's normal and that's like how I am and like how I'm supposed to like be and act. I started noticing like more harder times in high school. I'm not really going to touch on this one, but when one of my cousins passed away, that like that fucked me up. And I remember like missing school for a bit because I don't know, like couldn't function properly, crying, like that put me in like a pretty bad state of depression. And then I had my first heartbreak in high school. Yeah, it sucks because this person was like a part of my life for so many years, and then started dating, and I thought like I'm marrying this guy.
Aww.
And then we ended up breaking up, and that was the first time that I ever did any type of self-harm. First and only time, I guess. I just remember sitting there like in the bathroom, like looking down, and I'm like, I can't do that anymore. And yeah.
I'm very thankful that you thought that.
Yeah, I don't
My
know,
God.
like there's been a lot of like times where it still like pops into my head, but then I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna do that. And I know people don't have it that easy or don't have that mindset, which is like really sad.
Well, fuck me. Like, I didn't for like years.
I just remember like I thought my world was freaking ending like the day that we broke up. Oh my God.
Okay, but that's checks out. That's fair. That's your first heartbreak. It did feel like the end of the world, and like
it did.
your life is done, right? Because it's like, oh.
And I remember like shutting down. I came home from school one day, and I just remember bawling into my mom's arms, and like, yeah, I just thought like that's it.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
And then aside from that, I remember after high school, I like lost a lot of my friends that I used to hang out with, and that also put me in like a pretty sad state. But I think it's because like after I grew out of like the partying stage and like always going out and like doing something, you lose a lot of those people, so that also like again like triggered like sadness and depression because it's like, who the hell do I have now?
Naturally, right? Yeah. That's a very reasonable thing to experience. And
yeah, and I feel like a lot of people do experience that, and I mean sometimes it hits you more hard than it hits other people, but yeah, that freaking sucked, and there was a long period of time where I don't know, I just kind of blocked everything out.
Well, it makes sense because, yeah, like underlying anything really, if anything happens to you while you've got underlying mental health issues, like it's just 10 times harder, it feels like. If we are continuing into high school, for me, I don't know necessarily if this was like a problem yet, but I started drinking a lot in high school. And the only reason I bring it up is because I feel like part of the reason I did it was because drinking was the only time I was able to like openly talk about what I was feeling. Even now, like sometimes now still, when I have a couple drinks, like I'll just start trauma spilling. Even if people like have heard it 100 times, I just feel like that's probably part of the reason why it's so easy for people to fall into being, you know, dependent on alcohol or generally becoming alcoholic, is because there has to be like underlying issues that are like, you want to drink because you want to get it out and you can't without that.
See, and I think that's a reason why I drank a lot in high school. Not to like spill, but at the same time it like masks stuff. So you're out drinking, you're having a good time, you're surrounded by all these people who are also drinking, and it's like I have all the friends in the world. Like these people love me, and it's like,
Oh.
no, that's not it.
So yours almost sounds like the opposite.
Yeah,
Like you would use it to like kind of like let loose and feel like
yeah.
connected and happy and stuff. And like I think as soon as I had a certain point, like as soon as I got to a certain point drinking, I was just crying and like dumping all my issues on anyone who was listening.
Mhm.
So I was like not a fun person to drink with, I'm sure,
Aw.
because it would just be like, oh fuck, Lauren's here and she's crying. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
most of the time, anyways. I guess I was fun sometimes, maybe. Sound off.
I mean, I think you're fun when you drink.
Well, I don't have that much to spill anymore. I spilled it
Yeah,
all with you sober, so now when we drink, it's just fun.
that's true. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that definitely I noticed. And then also in high school is when I started like self-harming quite a bit more, and then that was also around the time where I like the eating stuff carried on into high school definitely, but then I also would start like with bulimia for a little while. Like I would eat and then go have a shower and sit in the shower and make myself throw everything up. Um, and then there were days like I just wouldn't eat, but same thing as like elementary school. I had such a fucked up self image, and I listened to a lot of people tell me that my body was not good enough or my body wasn't what it should look like. And yeah, I think I don't know, I just never really had a good relationship with my body. So then, yeah, like I said, bulimia, definitely anorexic for a long time. Like, if you look back at pictures of me when I was like a teenager, it's actually sad looking back. Like, I was very, very small, and I definitely did not see myself that way. I definitely struggled in high school, and then I was also in high school still when I got into the worst and most damaging relationship I have ever been in, and the last one before I met Marcus. And that I don't need to go into today. It definitely caused a lot of depression and definitely continued with the eating problems because he had a lot to do with my mental health decline. I will just leave it at that. And then everything after that is after high school. So let's throw it back to you.
Just to touch on like the bulimia stuff quickly, I remember, I think it was grade 8. I had a friend who was also bulimic, and she was very small. And I remember, like, this is a little TMI and probably graphic, but I remember like shoving a toothbrush down my throat to like make me throw up.
Oh my god, Cass.
But like I never like fully like went into like doing that on a daily basis. It was more of like, this is what she looks like. Why don't I look like that? And I never had anybody really comment on my weight growing up. Like I don't remember being bullied for like being bigger or whatever. It was more of like myself. Like I was doing the damaging myself.
So you were like your own biggest bully.
Yep. Yeah, after high school for me, I was okay for like a few years, and then I think once I started like noticing my PCOS symptoms, that's when my depression like really kicked in like full force, and I was like 20, and then ended up getting into a relationship, and I just remember I had to take a year and some off of work because it got so bad. I like could not get out of bed. I would wake up and feel nauseous and want to throw up because my anxiety was so bad. Like I didn't want to move. I just wanted to like stay there. And yeah, so that ended up actually affecting one of my jobs. It got to the point where like I wouldn't even try. I would honestly show up to work in a hoodie and like Crocs. No joke. Like,
Aww.
and didn't do anything with myself. There was so many days where I would like be showering and just like break down in the shower because one, nobody hears you in there, and it just, yeah.
It's very sad to say, but that is like I hope it's not common, but I definitely relate to you with the shower crying.
Yeah, or just like crying out of nowhere. Like I would just lay in bed for hours and hours. Like I couldn't even like clean. Like I don't know, my whole body just like shut down.
It's like severe depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember like that's kind of around the time when I got diagnosed because I went to the doctor and they did end up prescribing me an antidepressant, but I am always fearful of like putting stuff into my body. I've never been like one to want to take like medication for anything, sickness or like anything. It just I don't know, it just freaks me out. Sickness I have obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't know, it just scared me, so I didn't end up actually going through with like getting the prescription.
Which is fine, right? Like it's such a controversial thing.
It is, but now like I just wonder what life would be like if I would have. And like during this time, I just remember like having crappy relationships with everybody, family, like friends, a work life balance. Like I had nothing. I just blocked myself out completely.
This is actually really hard, like hearing you talk about this stuff. Like it's
Yeah,
making me really sad.
and like I don't talk about it with anybody. I feel like anybody listening, even family, they're gonna be like, really? Like,
Yeah,
because I just hold everything in, and I keep everything in my life so private.
you do.
Yeah, I don't share like any personal things really.
Internal struggles. You're very like
Yeah,
guarded.
even like myself, my relationships, like everything. I don't know. I deal with stuff on my own, and I feel like maybe that's not the best.
Nope.
Yeah, like I just assume like, okay, I'm strong, I can do it, and then it ends up in like a mental breakdown.
The Lulus.
Yeah.
Do you think part of it for you is like you feel like you're burdening people with your stuff? Because that's definitely for me. Like that's why I don't talk about it as much because I feel like I'm like burdening people.
That, and I feel like people will look at me different, and I don't like that. I don't like when people feel sorry for me or like, I don't know. I've always been that way. I don't like showing emotion, like sad emotion or like anything like that in front of people because I just assume, okay, they're going to hear this and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Cass, or like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't make me feel,
Like you don't want to be like the poor me girl,
yeah, I
right?
don't. Like, I appreciate everybody that, like, is there for me. Like, don't get me wrong, I do, and I love everybody for that. I just always think I can do it on my own.
Which is pretty common, I think, too, right? Because, like, just the fact that you've gone through everything that you have and you've suffered through everything that you have and made it through, like, obviously that's proven that you're strong.
Hmm.
So, my opinion on it is like, you don't have to continue proving that you're strong. Once you let it all out, they're going to hear it and be like, oh, fuck, like, she is a tough bitch. You know what I mean? So, like, I know it feels like you are going to be like, I don't know, looked at differently or like people are going to feel bad for you. How about this? Anyone listening, if you have a friend or a family member or someone you love that opens up about their struggles, tell them how tough they are and how resilient they are. Like, try
Yeah.
not to make them feel like little and victimy. Like, build them up. Be like, wow, I can't believe you made it through all of that. You are so tough.
Yeah, I feel like the days that I do tell people stuff and they do feel sorry for me, it makes me feel worse.
I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
I'm so sorry if
No,
I've ever made you feel like
no,
that.
like more like not okay, that was a really bad wording. Not worse, but like it makes me feel sad because I'm like putting that on to you or whoever I'm telling.
So like burden even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest reasons why I don't tell anybody stuff.
I think you just have to have a certain person or people that you like that you know you can tell it to.
Which is why I'm thankful like for our friendship
Oh,
100%
I
because
know, me too.
you're not judgy and like you get it because a lot of stuff like you can relate to
Yeah.
And like I do have other people in my life that like I could tell stuff to, but at the same time, a lot of people like to put their 2 cents in, and sometimes it makes the situation worse. And like with you, I feel like you're very understanding and like there for me.
I feel the same way with you. And it's actually funny that you brought this up because a couple days ago I saw this, like, I don't know, it was just like a Instagram post, and it was talking about how there's like a therapy friend. Have you heard that term?
Hmm.
And it's like, for anyone that hasn't heard it, a therapy friend is like the person that listens to everyone else's problems and like helps all their friends, but then never feels comfortable sharing their own issues.
That's literally me and you.
Yeah, like honest to God, we're the therapy friends, right? But yeah, as long like there's nothing wrong either with like being that person for someone as long as it's reciprocated, because you need to be able to let your shit out too. You can't just be like there
Yeah.
for everyone and have no one there for you. So bless this friendship.
Yeah,
Oh.
honestly.
Okay, so I guess moving forward, so the friend that I mentioned in the beginning, so she struggled with me throughout this entire time. And after high school, after I had already had my first kid, so like my daughter, I was like completely, I don't know if you want to say clean. Like I wasn't self-harming. Um, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't like nothing. I was eating properly, whatever. And her and I decided we were going to go get semicolon tattoos, which for anyone that doesn't know, a semicolon represents like, it's hard to explain, but like it's a suicide awareness tattoo. And it's basically like you could have ended your story, but you chose to continue. So like authors use it when like the sentence could end, but they have more they want to add to it. So it's representative of people that have survived like suicidal ideation or attempts or anything like that. I do still have it. Obviously, it's a freaking tattoo. But I got that with her, which becomes unfortunately very ironic. So then around, I don't know, my daughter was probably 3 maybe, I started getting like really really severe anxiety. Um and like I mean I was having like massive panic attacks. I would like hyperventilate. I would scream, cry, wouldn't want to leave my house. I wouldn't want to see my family. Nothing. Like I was just like really struggling with anxiety more than anything. I feel like depression for me has kind of like come and go. Like it seems like definitely seasonal. I have seasonal depression for sure. But generally, I think I don't suffer from depression like as a whole, but anxiety definitely, because once the panicking and the bad attacks started, I actually went and got diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder. And for that, I was also prescribed medication. And I did try it, I did go on it, but I ended up stopping it because I felt totally numb. Like completely numb. I felt like a robot.
See, and that's like one of my biggest fears and why I didn't want to start it, because I didn't want it to change like me as a person. Like, yes, I
Yeah.
definitely need help up there in my head for sure, but I didn't want it to change like my personality or like my humor and like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. That was like my biggest fear, and that's why I didn't end up going through with my prescription.
Well, and from what I've found, because now I'm on like something completely different, which I will get to, the wrong medication will do that. And the one that I was on or prescribed when I got diagnosed was completely the wrong one for me. And yeah, like I said, I stopped taking it because I would like, I remember specifically, like I was with Marcus at this point, and I remember sitting in my living room with him, and I was like, I wasn't freaking out, obviously, like I was medicated, but I sat there and I just looked at him and I was like, I need to cry, but I can't. I was like, my body can't cry and I'm scared right now. And I like almost panicked again because of that. And I was like, it was so scary. I told him, I was like, I feel like a zombie. I feel like I need to cry and I can't. and it's scaring me. I stopped that one. You have to find the right medication, and it definitely takes some time. So I guess if I jump to having Cohen, when I was like postpartum, I had a really, really hard time with postpartum depression and postpartum bipolar, which I didn't even know was a thing until they diagnosed me with it. But either way, I I don't think I've ever struggled as hard in my entire life as I did after I had Cohen. Like that was probably easily the hardest time in my entire life regarding mental illness. It was very, very, very bad. And it was just like deep depression, suicidal thoughts. And like, I'll make it clear nothing ever, like, I never had thoughts of like harming my kids, nothing like that. I know some people with postpartum do. Um, it was all me. I was like very hard on myself and definitely felt suicidal around that time. And I told no one because for that, I guess, like on top of not wanting to burden people, I felt like as a mom and especially as a new mom, like voicing that was scary to me because I'm like, well, what are people going to think? What are people going to say?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want people thinking like I was a bad mom. So I just like sucked it back. And then just before he turned 1, so like in the middle of all this really bad postpartum, um, Des passed away. She committed suicide. And that too, like fully, probably at least a year, just like sent me completely down. Which is also why like it gets hard for me to talk about all of this stuff because, you know, like obviously I started from the beginning, but yeah, like just thinking about like everything her and I went through and then, you know, like getting to a point where we were like, okay, we're recovering, we're going to be okay. And yeah, for it to just like end that way easily took a year from me. Yeah, I guess after that would bring us to the present, but I want to switch back to Cass and hear about how she's doing.
Still, like day to day, there are really bad days for me. Um, like most of the time, my mind's preoccupied with like work and life, which helps. Like it definitely is like a relief to always have something to do during the day so I don't like sit there in my thoughts. But there are still days where I just cry randomly, no reason, or have days where I don't want to get out of bed or don't want to clean or don't want to see anybody, talk to anybody, don't want to eat. Like I still have those days, not as often. I don't know, I feel like now talking about like I guess medication and stuff, I could go back and be like, okay, I need help
Yeah.
still. But as shitty as it sounds, this is like what I'm used to. So I feel like now if there would be a change, like I'm almost 30. So it's like I'm gone,
Yeah.
this long with like living this way. If there were to be a change now, I don't know how I would like deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I felt the same way. Here's the thing though. If you still have thoughts about going on medication, it's never going to be too late. And it sounds so dumb, but you'll notice like once you're on the right thing and you have the right dose, and it does take time, like you have to trial and error sometimes, you won't even recognize yourself anymore. It's completely different.
Yeah. I feel like the depression stuff, like being sad and whatever,
Yeah.
anxiety, I still have it definitely, but I don't wake up anymore feeling nauseous. I don't get that anymore, and I haven't in a really long time. But there's still the odd thing that does like cause it for sure.
Yeah.
Like going places by myself or being around a crap ton of people. I just like go into panic mode and I'm like, fuck. Like just breathe, just breathe.
So if you had to narrow it down, do you think you lean more towards depression or like anxiety? I wish y'all could see the face she just made.
Honestly, I don't think I could pinpoint. I feel like they're pretty equal.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like day to day, I have more times where I like have anxiety,
Yeah.
but I think that's just because I'm out like doing my life. But I don't know, because there's always thoughts in my head, and like I'm always thinking about like body issues and like food and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like that triggers like a depression or like sadness, right? I don't know. I don't think there's one that overpowers the other with me still.
So for me, there definitely is. Like, anxiety, for sure, is the main one. And I'll let you get back to yours, but I just wanted to be a bitch and cut in.
That's fine.
I would forget. I have the memory of a goldfish, and I would have forgotten. So I was like, "Oh, teacher, I have a question." Yeah, anxiety. Before I was medicated, which I am now. I guess that doesn't have to be like a big thing. Yes, I am medicated now. I take a mood stabilizer and an anti-anxiety slash anti-depression medication, and that's why I like advocate for meds, because I went from every single night, I would lay in bed, I would catastrophize. That's the word. I found out that's the word. Um, I'd lay in bed and I would literally prepare in my head, okay, if someone breaks in right now, I have about 10 seconds before they actually get into the house from like the first bang on the door. So in those 10 seconds, I'd have to run, get my daughter, bring her up to my son's room, because his room has a corner around it where we could hide behind a wall. And then I'm like, okay, so I put his dresser by the door when I was like organizing his room, so that if I ever had to, I just close the door, push the dresser, go hide in the closet around the corner. And every single night before I could go to sleep, I would have to plan out, okay, how many steps does it take to get to her room? How many steps does it take to get to his room? How many seconds would I have before the person came into the house? Where would he go first? What room would he go in first? And I couldn't sleep until I did it. And then I would like panic about it. And also, like, I couldn't go to family events. Couldn't. Christmas, I couldn't. Nothing. So, yeah, thinking of it that way, like, medication completely changed my life. And, like, I feel free of a lot of anxiety now.
That kind of opens up my eyes a little bit. Like, I'm still scared, obviously, to like go and get prescribed something again. And I don't know if I would be prescribed the same thing. Like, I don't know if that's something that they just automatically start you off with because you've been prescribed it before, or like how that works. But I don't know. There is a part of me that like always wonders, should I go? And I know my anxiety has caused like so many issues relationship wise too, not with just like boyfriend girlfriend, like not that kind of relationship, but in general.
Yeah. Family, friends.
Yeah. And I like panic even if somebody doesn't reply to me, I'm like, hey, automatically I go into panic mode and I'm like, fuck, they hate me, or they're gonna cut me off, or like whatever.
Yeah, I do too.
And I feel like that might be something that could also help with. I don't know.
The other thing I will say about medication, it's crazy how normal it feels having anxiety and like being the way that we are. That just feels like completely normal. Like, I don't know about you, but growing up, I was like, for sure, everyone feels like this.
Yeah.
Everyone panics when they walk into a store. Everyone has a panic attack when they order off a menu.
Yeah.
Everyone has thoughts like that before they go to bed. And it took like Marcus. One night I asked him, I was like, do you ever like do this? Do people do this? And he's like, do you want me to be honest? And I said, yeah. And he's like, no, that's not normal. Not everybody does that. And I went literally my whole life just assuming this is everybody. This is just people. People do this. They don't.
Yes, see, but now, like, doing it for so long and, like, that's how we are, changing that scares me. So here I am.
I know.
having anxiety
about not having
change.
anxiety.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You get anxiety about the thought that you won't have anxiety anymore.
And I just got goosebumps and I feel it in my face.
Literally, because you're so used to it that it feels like it's part of who you are. And if you don't have anxiety anymore, what's your personality?
I don't know.
Like,
and
you're
I
always
feel like I'm suffocating now, Lord.
I'm so sorry. No, but are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, are you sure? Okay. But yeah, that's the worst part, right? Is like, it feels like that's your personality. And if you don't have anxiety anymore and you're not like the quirky, shy girl that cancels plans last minute, like, who are you?
Yeah.
But honestly, the transition is so slow, you hardly notice it until you notice it, right? Like, I transitioned, I think, about 6 weeks. And it was like, I'm still anxious. And then you kind of stop thinking about it. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, oh my God, I didn't panic today. And you don't miss it. I promise you, you don't miss it.
Yeah, I don't know. And same with like even going out anywhere. I'm always like, okay, I need to do my hair, or I need to put mascara on, or like the image thing too is like there always for me. And that's another thing. Like, do I go out in public and look like a potato, or do I spend the 10 minutes to like get dressed normally and like, I don't know.
She's not a potato. Just gonna put that out there.
That's a thing that I like started to like work on now. I'll leave the house in whatever the fuck I'm wearing.
Good.
Like, I don't care about that anymore, but I used to.
I know.
I always had to have my hair done. I always had to have my makeup done. I always had to have a cute outfit on or like something. I always needed to do those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too. It's like, I don't know.
See,
shit's weird.
I think parts of it you will be able to outgrow, for sure, naturally. But I do think if it's causing a lot of issue for you, it's probably worth it to try. If you're comfortable with it. Like, don't ever let someone pressure you to take medication for anything.
Yeah.
But if you are questioning it and you're curious about it, my suggestion is try. Because if it doesn't work and you feel numb, you just stop. Right? Mm-hmm. You talk to a doctor and you ask how you safely come off the medication. That's the other thing. I didn't do that. I just quit it cold turkey and I went through withdrawals for days of withdrawals. And it was terrible. Probably like the worst I've ever felt. Like, physically. It was horrible. Yeah. I imagine that's what coming off drugs must feel like, because, it's awful. So as long as you do it safely, you can always go back. But it's worth a shot if it's, interfering with your life, which it is.
Yep. But like talking about it makes me realize it more, right? Because I never do. I never talk about this.
I know.
I mean, with you, obviously, because you know me and like.
Yeah.
But anybody else, not a chance. They just think, oh,
she's fine, good,
she's happy, she's whatever, and it's
thriving.
Like,
nope. Like, I'm dying on the inside. How are you?
Not me laughing all the time to mask my sadness. Like, honestly.
It's so funny, too, because before we started recording, I was like, I'm going to try and make jokes this whole time. Yeah. I don't want this to feel so serious. But that's also, like, a coping thing, is humor. And we both do that. Like, we cope with humor.
Whoops. Oh, yeah, we both lost our dads. Fuck, yeah, that's funny. Like, I don't know.
Oh, we're so, like, it's so twisted for anyone that's, like, quote, normal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, anyone around that's, like, not suffering and, like, having mentee breaks is, like, holy fuck, those bitches are nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're sitting there and it's like, oh my god, that's so funny. Your trauma's hilarious. And then, like, we're nuts. But that's normal for us. Like, what else do you do? Not laugh about it?
I mean, probably, but it couldn't be us.
Couldn't be. You have to. Just crack jokes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else in the present that you feel like you like either have found that helps with coping or you work on, or anything that you like specifically still really, really, really struggle with?
Um, I think the biggest thing that I struggle with day to day is like my body issues. That's like a big one for me. But then
Yeah.
again, growing up to like this point and understanding why like I am the way that I am, it kind of helps ease my mind a bit on that. But I think that's like my biggest struggle. And I always get like, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I always
Toot it.
get compliments on like my clothes
Toot
or
toot.
how I look, and like, oh Cass, but like you're so beautiful, blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, okay, but like you can still be pretty and fat. Like that's not, no, honestly,
I know.
it's not like, it's
I
not
know.
masking that.
I know.
So I think that's like something that I'll always struggle with until, but then again, even if I lose the weight that I want to lose, I feel like that's not gonna help my issues.
Once you've had body dysmorphia, body issues,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you look like, you're always going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Unless you get to a point of clarity that I've not gotten to, where you're like, I love everything about myself.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get to that point.
Me neither. Shout out to anyone that has, though.
Honestly, I wish.
Send me some tips.
I wish.
Yeah, what's it like to not hate yourself?
Let us know in the comments and the Q&A, please.
That should be the Q&A. What's it like to not hate yourself? Fuck me.
Yeah.
Oh,
What about you?
I think right now, there's always tiny things I struggle with. Definitely what you said, like the PCOS hair loss is a huge, huge trigger right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I call it baby blues. I'm having like massive baby blues lately. And what was it, Friday? I was texting you like bawling my face off because I spent the whole night crying about infertility. Like, I feel like everything else going on in my life right now, I'm managing for the most part, but definitely I'm struggling a lot with the baby blues lately. That one too. There's nothing anyone can say, nothing anyone can do. Just how it is.
There's days for me too, and I'm at the point where I was like content with not having kids, but there's still days where I'm like, why can't I? Or like,
Really?
yeah. There's a lot of days where I think like, what if I was a mom?
Oh my god, Cass. Honey.
Because like growing up, I always like pictured myself being a mom and like having kids. I always wanted 2 kids. Like I had names picked out, and like I still do. They're in a notes thing on my phone. But like finding out about PCOS, I just kind of like, I know that you can get pregnant when you have PCOS. There's stories about that all over the place.
Yeah.
But I just came to like the fact that it's not for me. It hasn't happened, and it might not ever happen. So that's just like where I stood with it now. We both go through it, which sucks.
I know, but honestly, like, I'm so sorry. And, like, that's why I have a hard time, like, it's nothing to do with you. But I have a hard time talking about the baby blues with you because, like, or with anyone. I have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, like,
still.
And I've definitely had people tell me, like, you need to just be grateful that you have 2. Some people don't get any. And I trust me, I am grateful. But like,
I feel like the be grateful you have kids already is like a rude comment.
It's hurtful to hear.
Like I know that you love and adore your kids and they love you so much, but at the same time, like people are allowed to have more than 2 kids or 3 kids. Like if they want a damn kid, they can have another kid, and that doesn't mean that they're not grateful for the kids that they have already. I fucking hate that comment so much. It makes me so mad.
I feel like you're gonna make me cry for you. But now that we're talking about this, I don't know why this is the part that's sad because it's right now.
Yeah.
That's why, right? Because this is happening right now. I don't understand why it seems like the people that want them the most can't have them.
Yeah. And like that's another thing that like peaks the depression, right? Like, and there's a lot of people listening that probably will relate to this one, like, big time.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have PCOS, like, there's people that have a hard time getting pregnant, and, like, I feel for those people so much.
Yeah, a million reasons. There are people that go through fertility treatments for years and thousands of dollars. What a fucking terrible thing to go through. But yeah, that was heavy, teary, and
a lot to unravel.
it was.
But before we end this episode, me and Laura thought that it would be a good idea to plug some helplines for anybody struggling.
Yeah.
So we do have the Crisis Canada hotline. The number for that is 1-866-585-0445. And then there is always the 811 line, which will usually direct you to a hospital or any medical service, really, to get help.
Yeah, and it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then there's Talk Suicide Canada, and that is a 24/7 phone line, and that one is 833-456-4566. And then there's also Kids Help Phone, and that one you can text the word CONNECT to 686868, or you can phone 1-800-668-6868. And I appreciate how easy that is to remember, especially for the children's one.
Yeah, that is really helpful.
Yeah, so if you're struggling with any of the topics we talked about today, or if you know someone that's struggling, those are all great places to start.
And please don't hesitate to reach out if you guys do need help.
Yeah. Advocate for the people you love, advocate for yourself. It gets better. Yeah, it really does get better, I promise. And take care of yourself.
And again, our DMs are always open, like, no matter what, for anybody. And then, yeah, so for the next episode, you guys, we're not going to do anything sad.
Yay!
You guys get a little spooky Halloween episode from us, so stay tuned for that.
I'm pumped for the Halloween episode.
Me too.
Oh, okay. Well, that concludes our Depresso episode. Make sure you like, share, comment, follow, whatever the fuck else you want to do.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
XOXO,
Go Sip Girls!